Believe it or not, some used car models are now selling for higher prices than if you bought the same car brand new. Today, we're taking a deep dive into what's going on with car prices now and why new and used cars are selling at abnormal prices. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, so I'll share tips on what you can do if you absolutely must buy a car right now. Normally, buying a used car is more cost-effective for your wallet. But up until recently, some used car models are selling for thousands of dollars more than their brand new counterparts, especially since last year. And so it's been the worst time to buy a car in American history. Just look at 7 out of the 10 most popular cars in the U.S. It sounds strange and counterintuitive, but according to a recent study, the following used models cost more than a new one. Let's start with the Toyota RAV4. Here in the U.S., it's one of the best-selling crossovers. But up until recently, it cost almost $6,000 more to buy a used 2021 RAV4 than if you were to buy a new 2022 model at MSRP. If you're wondering what the other used cars have been, here's a short list of the craziness going around. So the ever-popular Honda Civic has set some consumers back a whopping $5,300 more than if they bought a brand new one. Next, just shift your eyes to a used Honda CR-V. On average, it set consumers back $3,800 more than a new model. Then we have the Toyota Camry, Nissan Rogue, and Toyota Highlander. A used Camry, Rogue, and Highlander, on average, cost many consumers $3,200, $3,100, and $2,100 more, respectively, than new models did. If you're a truck lover, a used F-150 costs $100 more than if bought new. But the used car market has seemed to reach its peak. But let me clarify one thing. Just because some new cars have been cheaper than their used car counterparts doesn't mean that new cars are cheap. It's actually the opposite. New car prices continue to reach all new record highs. Just a couple months ago, one report found that the estimated average retail price of a new car sold that month was almost $46,300. That was an 11.5% increase from exactly 1 year before, and that was the highest increase on record. Now, if you think that's bad, that's not the worst part. Other estimates that looked at different data found that the average new car purchased on July 2022 sold for almost $48,200, and that's another record high. So why are new car prices continuing at such a rapid rate? Well, at the heart of it all are the global supply and demand issues. Dealerships just don't have enough inventory of new cars to sell. That means that buyers have less choices, and car dealerships are able to charge top dollar for the cars that they have available for sale right now. Because of this, dealerships are on target to profit more than $5,000 for every new car they sell. That's on average 126% more profit on each car compared to the normal market conditions. And of course, there's the ongoing global semiconductor chip shortage. Because of that, car manufacturers are prioritizing their most expensive vehicles to make higher profit. If car makers don't have enough semiconductors, they have to pick and choose which vehicles will get them and which ones won't. That makes business sense because if you're a car maker, why would you use up your semiconductor chip inventory on a $25,000 car when you can put it in a $60,000 car instead? But that's not all. Monthly loan payments are also at all-time record highs. This past July, the average monthly payment for a new car exceeds $716. Compare that to August of last year, 2021, that's a 12.2% increase. Now, if you've been putting off buying a used car because of abnormally high prices, as I mentioned, there's some good news. The market for used vehicles is slowly but surely becoming more affordable. A recent report found that there's a better chance of paying a little less for a used vehicle now and in coming months compared to a few months ago. This past January 2022, the average transaction price for a 3-year-old vehicle was a bit more than $32,800. But 6 months later, in July 2022, the average transaction price was $31,300. That comes out to a decrease of 4.6%. In fact, average prices for used cars across the board actually fell for 4 months in a row. Analysts predict this trend will continue this month and into the next few months too. It'll be a steady decrease, but don't expect earth-shattering price drops. These price drops aren't just for gas-powered vehicles though. They're seeing it across the board, even with electric and hybrids too. The reason is because since August 2022, gas prices have been steadily declining, and experts expect this trend to continue steadily. But here's the thing, when gas prices were at the record highs earlier this year, consumers flocked to used EVs and hybrids. That's why the prices of used EVs and hybrids skyrocketed. But now fuel costs are down, and so is the number of people buying used electric or hybrid vehicles. In recent months, used EV prices declined by a dramatic 4% to an average of $64,300. Used hybrid prices also fell by 3% down to an average of $47,800. Teslas also dropped in price by 4% this past August 2022. That comes out to a drop of more than $3,000 for an average price of $67,300. Back in June, Tesla's peaked to an all-time record of 50% above projected normal prices. But lately, Tesla's prices are starting to show signs of softening. But some car brands have continued to firmly hold their prices high. It's mainly the foreign brands. On average, foreign brands are priced 44% or $8,100 more than projected normal levels. If you're wondering what foreign car brand has the highest price premium, well, that goes to Volkswagen. Used Volkswagens have the highest price premium compared to all other foreign brands. Used Volkswagen prices averaged $9,300 more than their normal pricing levels. That's a jaw-dropping 57% increase. Now, if you're looking to sell a used car, especially if it's a second car, here's some advice. Sell it now. It's been a seller's market for quite some time. Some say the current car market can best be described as a once-in-a-lifetime market condition for sellers. In other words, it's prime time to cash in if you have a spare car to sell. But back to the buyers now. Yes, there's a bright side of prices easing down slowly, but that doesn't change the fact that both new and used car prices are still sky high. Last year, the industry average for new gasoline cars was about $46,000. Compare that to the average cost of an EV, which was $56,000. That's all 10 grand we're talking about. So why are EVs just so expensive? Short answer is because of the extra technology involved in the production of an EV. And of course, most of it is the battery cost. Just how high can EV prices get? Well, the 2022 Lucid Air Dream could set you back as much as $170,000. Mind you, it's a luxury EV and comes with lots of bells and whistles. At the driver's seat, you'll find a combination of the digital instrument cluster and a central infotainment screen. The screen is a curved, floating 34-inch screen with crisp and clear 5K resolution. Side of the cockpit is touch sensitive. It supports Alexa voice commands, Apple CarPlay, Spotify, wireless Android Auto, and other services. The Lucid Air Dream even includes a touch screen for the wiper, lighting, and security controls on the left side of the main driver's cockpit. And there's even another touchscreen, which Lucid has nicknamed the Pilot Panel. Not only does the screen control audio and phone controls and navigation, but it also controls more detailed vehicle parameters. But more than that is your car insurance premium. You guessed it. Premiums on EVs are generally higher. On average, you're looking at EV insurance premiums that are about 25% higher than for a gasoline-powered car. Naturally, you're wondering why. Well, a major reason is because EVs cost more to repair and replace. They say EVs generally require less maintenance, but when they do, which will happen inevitably, well, that's when they'll get you. Another hidden cost actually has to do with temperature, specifically the temperature where you live. For example, if you live in a warm climate like Texas or Florida, you likely won't run into this hidden cost too frequently. But let's say you live in one of the colder areas, like one of the northern states. I wouldn't even mention Alaska, where temperatures dip minus 30 degrees and where there's hardly any EV infrastructure. States with dramatic seasonal swings from hot to cold don't do your EV battery any favors. It's actually the opposite. These temperature shifts reduce your battery's ability to get its full amount of charge in and out. But the cold weather doesn't just eat your battery's charging capabilities over time. It also has a negative effect on your battery's driving range. That's because all of the added power demands that come from operating your EV in cold weather. EVs don't have a heat-producing engine to warm up car in frigid temperatures. It's the battery that powers the heating systems. And if those systems are working overtime, the battery will be worn out quicker. There's just no way around that, and this leads to lower driving range for your EV. If you live in a cold climate, but you're still set on getting an EV, in that case, just look at Norway. The Norwegian government has recently been incentivizing their citizens to buy clean green EVs instead of traditional gasoline ones. But here's the thing. We all know Norway is cold, very cold. The coldest temperature on record ever recorded in Norway was minus 60.5 degrees. Nevertheless, the Norwegian government went ahead performing a series of comprehensive tests to try out the best EV for their frigid temperatures. A couple of years ago, the Norway Automotive Federation published the results of this particular test. In this test, they drove 20 different EVs in real-world winter conditions until they literally stopped completely and shut down. Guess which one came on top? Believe it or not, they found that the Hyundai Kona only experienced a 9% decrease in driving range. The Tesla Model S also scored at the top for driving range. And when it came to the best EV for charging in the cold, the top cars were the Tesla Model 3 and the Audi e-tron. Another cost that many people forget about is the cost to charge an EV. You have options for sure, but none of the public charging ones are cheap. Far from it. This can come as a real surprise for some EV owners when they go to charge on the road. Prices for public charging stations really depend on the provider, and they can range widely from state to state. Did you know that states even have different ways of calculating what they'll base charging costs on? Some states only allow providers to charge on a per minute basis. Other states allow pricing based on the kilowatt hour of electricity used. Just look at a few examples. There's a charging network called Blink. It charges you anywhere from 4 to 6 cents per minute or 39 to 79 cents per kilowatt hour. It all depends on where you choose to charge your car. Even Tesla's charging prices vary. Tesla charges 28 cents per kilowatt hour or 13 to 26 cents per minute. Speaking of EV charging, here's another thing your EV is costing you that many people forget to think about, and that is time. They say time is money, and it's true. With new fast chargers, you can potentially fully charge your EV in less than 30 minutes. If you think that's a steal, just recall how long it took you to pump gas in your combustion engine car. 2 minutes! And if you're in an urgent rush and your car suddenly loses all its juice, 30 minutes can be an eternity. And if you're not using a fast charger, charging time can go up to 7, 8, or even 12 hours. If you want to avoid the faster, expensive charging options and prefer the low-stress option of at-home charging, well, it may be lower stress, but it's nowhere near lower cost. Fully setting up an EV charger in your home isn't cheap. The average installation cost to get an EV charger for home use can be about $1,500, and that number can go even higher depending on permits, labor costs, and other logistics. Also remember, at-home chargers aren't one size fits all. Depending on the model of your EV, you might need to buy a specific charger for your car's make. But those aren't the only hidden costs of home charging stations. You also have to factor in how much it'll cost you to find a trained electrician who knows how to install car chargers in the first place. And you might even have to find someone to upgrade the electrical grid in your home to be able to handle such high amperage fast charging. Now let's say your EV battery suddenly dies on you and you have to replace it. Well, I got some bad news for you. It'll cost you a lot. We can only hope battery technology will get better in the future. But for now, you have no choice but to replace your EV's battery on average every 8 to 10 years or about 100,000 miles. That might seem far away, but reality is that time flies. And when this time period is up, you'll be looking at a battery replacement price tag ranging anywhere from $6,000 to even $20,000 depending on the make. Even if you do everything right, all rechargeable batteries lose capacity with more use and time. It's inevitable. Now, in the past, car makers used to clearly warn consumers that batteries lose capacity over time in their owner's manuals. Take the Nissan Leaf, for example. The manual for the 2011 Nissan Leaf had the warning with Nissan's estimation that battery capacity would be reduced after 5 years. I'm talking 80%. They added that this was just an estimate. The percentage could be even significantly lower depending on the individual vehicle and lithium-ion battery usage. Really, the key to long battery life is how much you charge and how you charge it. As a general rule of thumb, don't run your battery below 10% state of charge unless you really have to. And avoid regularly charging your EV's battery above 80 or 90%. Most EVs allow you to set a level on the car when it will stop charging. But it's not only your battery that can break down and break your bank. Generally, they say EVs require less maintenance. As with all things in life, everything breaks down sooner or later. Really, there are all kinds of things that can break down in an EV. And you guessed it, the cost of repairing these things can be much higher compared to that of the combustion engine car. Another common misconception is that EV repairs are cheaper since it has less moving parts than a traditional combustion engine, and also since you don't need to do oil changes. That's not true. They are not cheaper. Take a look at Tesla, for example. The average annual repair cost for an average combustion engine car last year was $650, but the average repair cost of a Tesla is $830. That's almost an extra $200 a year. A company named We Predict even found that EV service costs were 2.3 times higher than a gasoline-powered car in a 3-month time frame. And at 12 months, the EV service costs were 1.6 times higher. They also found that service-related costs averaged a bit more like $30 per electric vehicle, whereas a gas-powered car averaged $190. And believe it or not, EV annual repair costs are going up, and that's thanks to the scarcity of parts that are needed for replacement. But it's not only what needs to be repaired in your vehicle that will cost you, it's also who can repair it. Electric vehicle auto mechanics might not be as easy to find as a combustion engine mechanics as you might think. That's because because EVs are a modern technology that's evolving and changing. Compare that to traditional mechanics who service combustion engine cars, which has been a steady, stable engineering science in the last few decades. By the way, did you know that your car manufacturer might even set specific restrictions on who can repair your unique EV model? This means an even smaller pool of mechanics. If you get an EV, it's not just higher sticker price you'll pay. You'll also pay higher registration fees. So the obvious question is it worth to buy a car in 2023? Well, if you're looking for lower car prices, experts say that you should wait till next year. They predict that prices will remain relatively high because of low inventory. According to one report, the number of new and unsold vehicles available this year has held steady at 1.1 million. But compare this year's numbers with pre-pandemic times. Current numbers are still nowhere near what they used to be. For example, before the pandemic, in July 2019, there were nearly 3.7 million vehicles available. So while things are expected to improve, don't expect the number of available vehicles to get back up to that high before 2022 ends. Let's say you absolutely positively need a new car before next year. Well, here's some tips on how to best approach it. One of your best bets is to really do your research on the car you like, and you should search for other similar vehicles that have recently sold in your area. Knowing the going price in your area helps. You want to step in a dealership feeling confident that you can get the best deal possible. The more research you do, the more likely it'll happen. You can find free tools to do your solid research on car websites like Cars.com, YAA, or Car Gurus, to name a few. This way you have a reference point, push back if a clever car dealer tries to convince you otherwise. So do research on what other local dealerships are offering in comparison. Keep in mind that we're still seeing high inflation. Also, expectations are that the Federal Reserve may raise the interest rate again soon. That's why getting a new car is pretty much a luxury these days. So if you must buy a car now, come to the dealership with financing or cash in hand. It's well known that dealerships make tons of profits if they not only sell you the car, but if they also get you to finance it by getting a loan on their premises. But if you come to the dealership with financing from your local bank or even cash, you'll have way more leverage to negotiate the price of the car down. So how do you find a loan in your local area if you have to borrow? Well, first, you can check your bank or credit union. But don't just settle with them. Shop online too. There are many other lenders out there with interest rates and repayment terms that might be better. If you have good to excellent credit, it'll work in your favor. Lenders usually provide lower interest rates on loans if you have a good credit score. Also consider personal loans versus a car loan and see which one works best for you in your specific situation. If you're saving up cash right now to get a car in the future, consider saving it in a high-yield savings account rather than a standard one. This typical type of account gives you an APY that's higher than average. You might as well have your city money grow a tad more. Here's another helpful tip. Focus on the top vehicle feature you want, not a specific car brand or model. Let me explain why this is advantageous to you. Well, try making a list and writing down the top non-negotiable features you want. Things like how old the car you're willing to buy or how many miles it should have. Must it need to have a sunroof? Heated steering wheel? Prioritize your must-have features and then look for cars that meet those requirements as well as your budget requirement. At the end of the day, that'll give you far more car options to consider for your budget. Also, the wisest shopping approach is to select the car trim and feature package that's in your budget before you walk in the dealership. And be flexible and open-minded about scaling things down. For example, don't be dead set on one particular color for your car. And be open to a couple of other colors. Another tip is to try to build some sort of relationship with the local car dealership or salesperson. Try emailing them and asking a bunch of questions. The idea is to get your dealership to the point where they want to help you find the best deal. That way, you're not just another random customer that comes in through their door. Instead, you'll now have a better chance of finding a good deal because of your relationship with the dealership, no matter how small. Trust me. Simply being nice can go a long way. Remember, salesmen and saleswomen are people too. Being nice and respectful with your salesperson can be compared to being nice to your waiter at a restaurant. We all know that when you're nice, your waiter will provide better service. Remember, car dealers know how to save consumers money. Give them a reason to help you. If you have a high credit limit on your credit card and you're thinking of charging your car bill or your credit card, well, think twice. Some allow you to pay a part of the down payment, while others may allow you to fully pay for the entire car. But you should negotiate the car price before you tell the dealership you want to pay with your card. That's because dealerships have to deal with card processing fees, so they have their own rules on whether they'll accept credit cards or not. Dealerships aside, if you have a rewards card and when you get cash back, it can be easy to get tempted to buy the car with that credit card. But don't forget to consider APR on that card. The plan works out to benefit if you have 0% purchase APR. Last tip, if you absolutely don't need to buy a car now, well, it's really best to wait a while. Consider consider carpooling, rideshare, biking, and public transportation, if those are viable alternatives for now. But you tell me now, if you bought a new or used car recently, how much did you overpay? And was it worth it? And do you have any other tips on how to beat high car prices? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.